Okay, today we are here talking about the Triphasic Tactical Training Manual. So, in my recent years of experience with the tactical population, from anywhere from firefighters to police officers to operators in the military, what I've seen and have realized with a few of my assistants who have actually left working underneath me and gone to the tactical population in our military, and by monitoring these individuals, we find that most people in the tactical population live under stress that are second to none. Let me give you an example. None of my athletes live under the uncertainty or the function that is highly stressed state for extended periods of time. For example, my Olympic or college or pros athletes, they may work out extremely hard, but then they'll, let's say for example, some days go golf, or maybe someday practice a little bit. However, they are never under that constant uncertainty, that constant stress state where they have to be aware of their environment, and then go home to family and children in many cases that cause more stress at times. Maybe not in a bad way, but just lack of sleep and many other ways. The closest thing that we found in regards to the tactical population to our athletes that we've trained over the years is, the decathletes in the track and field setting. You have to be good at many tasks. Many of the tactical populations that fail with their training may say, hey, I need to be good at running, and that's all they focus on, where you actually can't be a world-class athlete in anything when you're a decathlete or a tactical athlete. You just have to accept the fact that you have to be good at a lot of qualities across the board. So the methods that we're talking about here in the Triphasic Training Tactical Manual is the concept of applying stress in the right manner to create various responses in the body. So one of those things is resilience to stress. Okay, so that may be long-term, it may be short-term. In the short term can be decision-making process, so that if your heart rate's extremely high and you're out of shape, you cannot make the correct decisions or accidents happen. You also have greater situational awareness, and I'll show you graphs about those states. The one thing that you realize with this program when you get the manual is that what we are is a very specific stress concepts that we implement within each workout to cause greater adaptation. Because if, let's say for example, if you go lift weights for strength training and then go out and run 3 miles afterwards, you're actually cross-adapting, and the body's not going to get the maximum results of each one of those. Where if you would just run on one day and lift on the next, you would get greater results. However, that may not always be possible. So we're going to show you in this manual how to mix those together. Now, the triphasic training part of this is just something that we slip in. Now, triphasic is just a concept that has worked for thousands of elite level athletes, not that I have coached, but people that have purchased the Triphasic Training book, not the Triphasic Training Tactical Manual, but the thousands that have purchased the book and implement it with elite level athletes, roughly a couple hundred in the Olympics, in the last summer Olympics here. Now, what we've seen, for example, in some of our teams is one team that had 4,500 total practices in a year with 25 kids practicing during the course of elite college players. During the course of the season, they had one soft tissue injury. So it was a slight hamstring issue that one practice, one person missed. Okay, so other teams have reported a 50% reduction in injuries. One of the biggest things with the triphasic training part of the response is that quite often when we've done MRIs with the triphasic training, we get greater bone density in the population. At one point with one major university where triphasic training was implemented, the females had the highest bone density of any population of females they've ever scanned. Okay, now the one thing that you're going to realize is it sounds like you have to train hard all the time. Well, we believe to get the optimal results, you want to train as hard as you must to get the results you need, but you want to train with the minimum effective dose, because many of the operators that, for example, if I ran across an operator in the military that was 30 years old, wanted to work for another, let's say, 10 years, well, by training 6 to 7 days a week, what transpires is you may actually wear out your body in that regard. So what if you can train less and get greater results by systematizing your training methods? And that's what this manual will do. You will be able to train less, get greater results. So just so you understand, we're going to cover the tactical versus conventional athletes. The big thing for the tactical is we have no understanding when your competition dates are. When I built a training plan for my Olympic athletes this last summer, I knew to the day when the event was. I knew when they had to compete. I knew the hour. I actually knew down to the minute when something was going to happen. So your peaking methods can be, and training protocols can be adjusted for that, where theoretically you would like to be optimal state of readiness when you're a tactical athlete. Now, what you see with our graphs here is that the marathon runner has 6 qualities, and what we did was we actually found that when we broke these qualities down, let's say jump over here to the tactical athlete, when we broke all 6 qualities down for the tactical athlete, we actually found that they have to have all of them. But when you look at world-class athletes, for example, a shot putter, his aerobic base doesn't need to be great, and that's what this part is, TT3. But a marathon runner must have a huge aerobic base, but he needs a lot of strength and speed and skill. So now, does the marathon runner need a lot of strength? No, there's a limit to where strength will not help him. Actually, working on strength will hinder him in his performance. So what we have to realize is that, again, if you built these graphs out across the board, the tactical athlete is an athlete within its own qualities and functions. So the 6 levels of performance qualities. Now, obviously, you could say there's more important qualities than 6 to the tactical athlete, but if you hit these 6, you will basically get better all across the board. So, for example, one advanced operator that used these methods reported to us that he actually figured out he trained roughly 30 to 40% less than he did previously and got 10% greater results. Okay, so, and he still trained 6 days a week like he did before, but got 10% greater results by training more optimally. Okay, so the goal is to maximize your results with the various concepts that we're implementing here. So Triphasic Tactical Training 1 are basically Performance Zone 1. It's Performance Zone 1 is short bursts of activities less than 10 seconds. So that can be sprinting, whether you're on the job. That can be pulling a sled for 10 seconds, a heavy sled. That can be pushing a car, sprinting from one position to another. Okay, so then what you have is Triphasic Tactical Quality 2. Performance Zone 2 is high intensity greater than 10 seconds so it's the same intensity, it just goes longer than 10 seconds, which can go up to 30 seconds, okay? which can take a while. So from in the field, we use dragging your partner a distance of 20 to 30 yards maybe, or it could be pushing a car hard for a minute. It could be sprinting for 60 seconds. All this is in Performance Zone 2. Now Performance Zone 3 is a long distance covered, which will improve recovery and ability. The long distances will be covered for just general fitness, okay? But this is also, this quality Performance Zone 3 is your aerobic base, which actually helps Performance Zone 1 recover. So you have to understand that if you have a great Performance Zone 3, you can do more work in Performance Zone 1. This is why for the tactical operator, this is important. Now Performance Zone 4 is strength performance zone. Okay, then Performance Zone 5 is strength endurance, and then Performance Zone 6 is speed. So basically, with some of the examples in here, we just give you concepts in the manual, because what we found is I built a program for an operator that needed his he had injuries and I didn't know about them, so I built him a program and it wouldn't work. But what he did was, when I taught him this information, he was able to manipulate his program to perform the way he wanted to. So I truly believe the way this needs to be built is that the operator needs to build its program along with these principles in the book to get the optimal results. Okay, so these are just examples here. We're not saying this is the best program. We made these programs very basic and simple. You'll get results with them, but it depends on the individual themselves. So, for example, Performance Zone 1, Tactical Quality 1, short sprint from one position to another, high intensity scenarios in a firefight. These are tactical situations, sprinting from one place to another, ground combat for survival. Okay, in training, the equivalent of these may be running full speed for a short amount of time, lifting explosively for 10 seconds or less, let's say a hex bar deadlift, or agility drill training. Okay, now what we have here is your choice of, here's an example of a Performance Zone 1 workout. A choice of agility drills, 1 to 2 sets, 3 to 10 seconds, rest in there. We'll cover the difference between high quality and capacity. So, and then you also may do, the next thing may be a sled push, and then you may run a sprint, and then you may do back squats. This is just one example of what has to take place. Now, any lift can be done as long as it's done at high speeds in this zone.